know y'all are like, you don't look like Stephen Madley. Don't worry. I'm not Stephen, I'm his co-presenter. My name is Dr. Cheryl Ingram. And you'll get to learn more about me during the presentation. Stephen is actually pulling up. We just got out of a meeting and we were running over here from our businesses. He is one of my business partners. So I figure I'd do a little activity before he gets here to get you going and excited about what you're about to learn. Yay, hiring process. So fun, new process. Ugh. All right, so I'm all about icebreakers and getting people warmed up. Would y'all like to join me in that?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So we'll start out with a really, I won't say simple one, just a fun one. I like to think of fun. Are y'all alert and ready? Had your daily coffee? Wishing you had it right now? All right, so what you're going to do is just clap when I clap. See, I haven't even clapped yet. Some of y'all are already putting your hands together. Good, get warmed up. So remember, all you have to do is clap when I clap. Are you ready? Are you sure?
Yes.
All right, let's do a practice run. See? Are you sure? All you gotta do is clap when I clap. All right, let's try this again. You ready? Hopefully Stephen comes soon. This is gonna get real interesting. All right. Ooh, somebody had it. And see, so today when we talk to you about hiring practices and what does it look like when you walk into a company, how difficult was it the first time that you had to clap when I clapped? How many of you got it on the first try? How many of you started to pick up my rhythm on the second try? Third try? Fourth, fifth, you're like, I didn't count. Right? That's the way that interviewing also works. Practice makes progression. I do not believe in perfection, but I do believe in progression. And what does that mean for human beings? So when Stephen comes and we produce this roadmap to you, remember these are things that you will have to practice, things that you will have to learn. And as you build your professional brand, what does it look like in the process of applying for a job and hoping that someone hires you after college? So with that being said, do you have any introductions, any questions for me before we even get out of the gate? Not yet? Y'all want to do another? You're like, no, we don't want another interactive. We want to get started. Don't worry, I promise we'll hopefully let you out on time. All right. So since we're still waiting, let's do some riddles. I love riddles. And if you can't tell, I'm also a college professor. I teach at Shoreline Community College. And I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I'm good at keeping people entertained for long periods of time. And sometimes having to pull things out of my back pocket. All right, so simple riddle. A person, a woman would say, rides into town on Thursday, stays for 3 days, and leaves on Thursday. How is this possible? Saw that here first.
Horse's name is Thursday.
No. That was your answer too, wasn't it? Anybody else? What do you think outside the box? Think broad.
It takes 4 days to ride into town.
Nope. Because they're on the right path, maybe. Woman rides into town on Thursday, stays for 3 days, leaves on Thursday. Close. Getting better, getting deeper. Anybody else? I'll give 2 more guesses before I give you the answer. It's not her name. Good guess. One more. One more. The motorcycle's name is Thursday. How many of you pictured a woman on a motorcycle? So one of the things I'm also going to talk to you about is what does diversity and inclusion and bias look like in the hiring process, and how do you work through that? How do you make an interviewer think differently about you? How do you make them think outside the box? And how do you think outside the box when you are answering interview questions? So Stephen is here, so I'll let him go ahead and get set up. Thank you for entertaining me with my riddles. I have another one, but it will take us all day to figure that one out. Some of us. All right, so let's go ahead and have some time to get set up and get started.
Hello. I have just demonstrated what not to do on your interview. Show up late. My name is Stephen Matley. I am the CEO and founder of SM Diversity. Well, I'll do my best to do this clicker. I don't like clickers too much, but we'll do the best. SM Diversity is a staffing and recruiting agency that focuses on diversity and inclusion in the workplace. We help companies connect with diverse communities of professionals. You all here consider yourself diverse professionals. As a recent grad or somebody from the millennial population, going into the workplace, you may find yourself with some obstacles that just so happen to be the way it's worked out in the system. Is anyone familiar with the term diversity or inclusion? Raise your hand. Awesome. For those of you that don't understand it yet, you'll understand it as we go through it a little more today. I have the lovely, smart, talented, intelligent Dr. Cheryl Ingram here with me as well. I will let her introduce herself.
Well, good afternoon once again, since we've been acquainted already. My name is Dr. Cheryl Ingram, and I am the CEO and founder of a company called Diverse City LLC. So what Diverse City LLC does is we go into companies and assess for diversity and inclusion, and we help them build strategies to make sure that they have an equitable workplace for everyone who comes into the workplace. So we go in and do assessments. We also do trainings in different components of diversity, and we help companies set up goals and accountability systems to make sure that they don't intentionally discriminate and or unconsciously discriminate against someone in the workplace based on their identity. Hence my joke about the motorcycle, right? Making people think outside the box. I am originally from Omaha, Nebraska. I have my PhD in education with a specialization in diversity and multiculturalism, a bachelor's in communication studies, a minor in math, and a master's in education. And that is who I am.
Thank you. She had such a better introduction than I did. So I'll follow it up. If you haven't read my bio, I was born and raised in the south side of Seattle. I had very little mentors. I am firsthand familiar with welfare, food stamps, project housing, lack of mentors. I jokingly, on a lot of talks, tell people that if I created a company with my natural network, it'd probably be illegal. There's some truth to that. Because of the slides that we're going to show you and some of the high-level overview of some tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you all, these are the ways that I was able to not be a product of my environment and was able to network, do some research, and execute on the strategies to be able to be a two-time revenue-generating CEO and founder of two separate companies twice with the lack of mentorship, resources, and support. I was able to serve on panels and speak with other thought leaders around diversity and inclusion and workplace engagement with IBM, Microsoft, Bank of America, Comcast. And so these are things that don't happen by accident, but by positive repetition and habits that we're going to talk about today. I am not a career coach. I'm not the only answer that you'll ever have found, and neither will be Cheryl. But we are going to share with you all our experiences and what we've learned through the market. Cheryl has worked with probably hundreds of thousands of students in her professional career, and more recently with Year Up. I have probably been in well over 100 different organizations, large and small, in various different sectors. Probably have seen, no exaggeration, probably 5,000 resumes come across our office, and have helped hundreds of people get a job or transition out of their job. So I'm just going to dive right into it. Now I like to be very engaging, and I like to be informal. Cheryl would like to keep us all in focus, guided, and have a theme. So we're gonna balance each other out, okay?
So don't start talking about dinosaurs or anything. Bring it back.
We might. So in the handout that you all have, these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. So what we're going to start off with is the 1, 2, 3 step that I wanted to share with everybody. The reason why I did a 1, 2, 3 step is probably because that's how I retain information. When it's too much, it's going to spill over. You're not going to retain it. You're free to make notes, as much notes as you need. You're free to follow up with questions or provide any feedback, or it's going to be very engaging. So can we all agree on that? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, cool. So life after college. So I have a confession. I almost dropped out of high school. I didn't have a chance to go to college, but that didn't stop me from enrolling into Cornell University's HR Strategic Leadership Program, which I'll graduate from this month. So let me just let you all know, there's never a wrong time to start doing the right thing. There's never, I'm 35 years old, and I'm still taking classes because I'm a lifelong learner. So let me just tell you that after today, I hope that you somehow, some way if you just take one thing from today and apply it, we're both successful already, right? Now, if you can take multiple things, even the better. So just know that it takes a lot of practice. So I just want to give you just enough and comb over through a summary in the hour that we have together, just to give you enough, and then we can go from there. So first thing that I want to talk about, and the reason why it's so important, is because without this, nothing is possible. What I mean by that is, in order for you to find the cure for cancer, or for you to discover something, or even take a vacation. I love one of the things that Cheryl talks about, and I'll let her say it, but it's about a trip to Hawaii. Would you like to talk about that? And I'll tee it up for Cheryl. There was somebody that asked Cheryl one time, he goes, well, you know what, Cheryl, I like this. I like the fact that we can connect with more black, brown, people of different genders in the workplace and in the different communities. How do I do it, Cheryl? I don't know. As a white male, I don't know how to connect with black and brown people. And Cheryl asked him about Hawaii. Cheryl?
I said, do you travel? He said, yes. I said, what steps do you take in order to make sure that your trip is successful? And he said, well, I plan. I said, you do the research, right? You look at where it is that you're going. You plan, you create all the logistics, you finish the logistics, then you go to that place. It's the same way when you are networking or reaching out to people who are diverse from you. You go and visit community centers, you go and visit places where those people exist that you have not been. It's the same way that diversity works when you think about networking and reaching out to communities of people who have identities that are different from you.
So, does that make sense to everybody? Research. You want to go to Hawaii? Think of Hawaii as a job. You want this dream job? You want to work at Google, Facebook, Microsoft, wherever. The AI, Allen Institute, doesn't matter. The first thing you have to start doing is researching, right? And where does research start? It starts with you. Do you know you? Do you know you? Like, do you really know what you can add value to? Do you know your potential? You see, there's this book that I recently read by Angela Duckworth, and I'm still reading it, so I can't lie. But the first couple chapters really caught my attention. It was talking about how in the workplace, they admire talent, or the exclusive wording, which I don't like, rock stars, right? We're going to call y'all rap stars today. The reason why I don't like that word is because it believes that each and every one of you, or you're different from this person because he's just born with a natural gift, which is very untrue. We don't give enough credit to people that are strivers, people that put in the effort as well. You all, how many of you all are freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors? Or sorry, I just went through all of it. Just seeing if you're listening, that's all. Seniors? Juniors? Sophomores? Freshmen? Oh, well, good. And you all are here. The fact that you're here after hours, you're putting forth the effort. You're doing the research. You're already taking the first step. You're already trying to figure out who you are and where you start. But that doesn't always mean that that's all you'll be. You can strive to be more. And that's one of the books that Angela Duckworth talks about, which is grit, is that we don't give enough effort, or we don't put enough emphasis or credit to people that are maybe not naturally born rap stars, but had to learn it along the way. That's why you're all enrolled in school today. That's the reason why I enrolled. That's the reason why Cheryl went to get her PhD. Do you know you? Do you know your soft skills, what you bring? And we'll dig deeper into this. The presentation. Do you know the latest trends in the market? Let's just say you wanted to get into the staffing and recruiting business. Let's just say you wanted to go to Hawaii. Do you even know what the prices of the ticket sales are? Where are the off-seasons? Do you really want to go to Hawaii when it's raining? Do you? I don't think so. Do you really want to go to a company that could be, filing bankruptcy next month and had a bunch of layoffs? Maybe. Maybe you're there to save the day. But so it's like, do you know the leaders in the industry? Do you know the company? Are you researching the company? You want to go work at Google but don't even know what the next latest product that they're building. You want to go work at Facebook but you don't know what you could deliver, what you could add value, or what job openings. Is there even a place for you there? Are they shrinking down that business? Are they expanding that side of the business? Is that something that you need to go get, a skill? So by knowing you and where you're at today, you can also get to know the company and where you apply. And your connections. Can I show a hand of who here has a LinkedIn? Damn it, give yourself a round of applause. Round of applause, for real. 90% of the people are on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, you don't exist. Let me just tell you, you do not exist in the professional world if you don't have a LinkedIn. Can everyone agree on that? Yeah. It's okay to disagree too, by the way. But that's how we find you. Do you know the company? And what are your connections to there? Because guess what? You might have a friend that works at Microsoft today. And if anything has told us throughout history of the job market, is friends like to refer friends. How many people here know people that work at the companies that they could possibly see themselves working at? Microsoft, Facebook. Okay, let's keep those hands up. How many of those people that have their hands up has actually asked for a homie hookup? Okay, good for you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. That's leveraging your connections, your network. The reason why Facebook, social media, LinkedIn are valued in the millions and billions of dollars is because of connections. Getting to know your first, second, third connections. That's why if you want to know the company, maybe find out who's connected to that company. What's your name, sir?
Max.
Max. What's your name?
Dave.
Dave. And what's your name, man? Taylor. Taylor, Max, David. Let's just say Max and Taylor are connected. Taylor works at Bank of America. You all know each other pretty well. You guys like to sit close to each other at lunch, whatever it is. Taylor gets a job as a hiring manager, right? And you want to get that job. And you notice that Max is connected with her on LinkedIn. And Max would actually vouch for you and say, hey, you want a marketing person? Dave's the guy. Or the gal. You would simply just request that you actually ask Taylor for an introduction through LinkedIn. Would you think that's a better route than actually submitting your resume to Microsoft with thousands of other people? How do you make yourself stand out? Would that make it a little bit easier? Would you all agree with that? Just a little bit easier. It doesn't guarantee your job, but it actually gets you closer to the company and to that connection. What's the worst that can happen? You still don't have the job. It's a no. I was thinking get the job anyways. If it's a maybe, that's just one extra step closer. So research. Cheryl, you mentioned something about salary range.
Yeah, it's about salary range. So I'll add some context before we get into the salary range and tell you a story about why some of those things are important. One of the things that Stephen talked about is researching you. The component that I'm going to add to that is what is your why, right? And some of you are probably saying, what does that mean? I'm asking, why is it that you major? Because most of you are seniors, so I'm guessing you have decided a major that you plan to graduate in soon, correct? What is your why? Why did you take that major? And the reason that I ask that is because I remember coming out of college and having a bachelor's degree, and one of the things that I wanted to do, the first thing I wanted to do was make money, right? My family was poor, and I needed to make sure that I found a way to lift them up, to take care of my family when I went back home. And so I said, I need a job that's gonna help me make money. So even though I had a bachelor's in communication studies, I was applying for everything under the sun. I had applied for 444 jobs by the time I had left college, and I only got 2 callbacks. And so I always ask people, and the reason I'm asking you what your why is because even in the process of researching the company, it is important not to jeopardize your authenticity and who it is that you are. And the reason I say that is because when you look at something like a salary range, as a human being, it is important for you to know your worth, right? And what it is that you are bringing to a company, because when you go into an interviewing room, a hiring manager is going to want to know what it is that you can do for the company. Right? Because they're not hiring you because of what the company can do for you initially. Sometimes you have to define that once you get your foot in the door. So when I talk about salary range, I'm talking about look for trends in the market, even regionally. Like don't just go on Indeed and say, oh, what is the average salary for a program manager in Seattle? You go and you look in Seattle, you look in Oregon, you look in all of the places within that region, and then you define what it is that you're going to ask for. And the reason I say that is because when most managers give you an entry-level fee, especially if you are a person with a historically stigmatized identity, they start low. And when I say it's a historically stigmatized identity, I'm talking about your race, your age, your gender, sometimes your sexual orientation, all of the visible intersections that you have as a human being will impact sometimes how much a company will offer you for a job, right? And if you know what your worth is and you are willing to negotiate, you won't make the same mistake like I did and take the first number that someone throws at you out of desperation and the need to survive. Because there's thousands of other graduates on the market probably applying for the same position that you are. So what makes you different? Which is why I say define your why, because once you do that, you'll be able to develop how much it is you feel like you are worth when you go into a company. Steve talked about looking at the latest trends in the market. When you go into a company, look at the retention rate. Look at who is in leadership positions.
Glassdoor?
Yes, especially within your specific department. Who are in leadership positions? Remember, when you go into a resume, an interview, it should be a two-way interview. You should be asking them just as many questions about their company as they are asking you. Who's in leadership positions? What's the rate for a promotion? What kind of professional development plans do you have to make sure that you invest in me as a professional? Make sure I grow within your companies, because that is what makes employees stay. Ask people in the department, why did the person before you leave the job? Right? Those are things that you want to know. That is research. So you do research before you get in the door, and then you have your research questions ready when you are sitting at the table with the hiring manager.
Great. That's the who, what, when, where, why, and how. If you can apply that to your research, you'll be able to uncover a lot of answers that's going to prep you. And the more prepared you are when you go into those phone screens with the recruiter internally or with the hiring manager or go to the in-person, you're just going to be more prepared in case they throw you off. Have you all heard about the funny, interesting interview questions that people have at different companies, like Google? Anybody heard of this? Like they'll ask you interesting questions like, if you were minimized to a certain size and you were thrown in a blender with a shoelace, how do you get out of it? I've actually heard those are actually really true questions.
When I worked at Europe, we used to take, because Google is one of our partners, they would send us interview questions so that we can prep our students. And that's very real. Like the question of how do you fit an elephant into a refrigerator? Right? Something you would never suspect that someone would ask you in an interview, but what are they asking you to do? Think outside the box. Same thing that I started before Stephen got here with the motorcycle question, right? Many of you said it's the worst. And you're like, oh. I said no, and immediately hands went down. People are like, well, what else could it be? It's important to think outside of the box.
I've actually been told by a Google hiring manager, what they do is they actually ask you to whiteboard. It could be anything, but let's just say it's for a tech role. You could be the smartest technologist out there. If you cannot, and I want you all to remember this, if you cannot explain your thoughts, you've already defaulted to a fail. If you cannot explain what you're thinking, instead of me just going up here and just whiteboarding, and I look at you, and I whiteboard, I look at you, and then I walk away and I'm done, you've already lost the job. Because what that tells an employer is that when you come in and you're working and you have to work in a group setting, because the big companies like this, you're not able to do things alone. Yeah, sure, you're going to have a lot of ownership, but they're going to expect you to work in a group, multiple groups, in your group and in multiple different departments. If you can't explain your thoughts in an interview, how could they expect you to explain your thoughts when you're working with Taylor, Dave, Max, whoever? Very important that you explain your thoughts. So, the power of the internet. How many of you all have access to the internet? Raise your hand. Okay, so that means none of you have an excuse. If you have access to the internet, you don't have an excuse. Because all these, it's a Google search. It's just like before I came here, I was like, I wonder what it is for college students, life after college. What's the rate? Guess what I did? I used the power of the internet. And I found out that about 80% of people don't have proper jobs lined up for them after graduation. So all the seniors, those raising their hand, 80% won't have a proper job lined up for them. So you could sit back and complain and not do anything and wait for somebody to come knocking on your door, or you could do the first step, which is research. Take the first step. You have to take the first step. You have to take the first step. You have to take the first step. By being here, you've taken the first step. Now get in the habit of taking more steps. And once you get in the habit, you're just, you can only go forward. Progress, momentum, leverage. Next, network. Network, 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 network. In our industry and staffing recruiting, we're paid to network. Most staffing recruiters that you know get paid 6 figures. Who here would like to make 6 figures right out of college? Raise your hand. Thank you. Staffing and recruiting industry, I'm not asking you guys to jump into that industry, but let me just plant the seed, okay? Amazon hires thousands of recruiters. Thousands of recruiters. And they get paid to network. It's so powerful to network because what networking does is the same example that I gave with Taylor, Max, and Dave. Did I get that right? Okay, I'm horrible with names. Yeah, you get paid to network because you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that can get that person into Amazon. Guess what? It works the same way also. The reason why Amazon hires so many recruiters that are networked online, offline, is because they realize that by paying this person 6 figures or that person 6 figures, they're going to be able to get some intelligence into their company that could reach further than that they probably can't on an advertisement. Why can't Amazon just pay $120,000 per advertisement and say that person's going to get me more people than Dave or Taylor? Because they understand the power of people. And the power of people, when you're networking, comes with your personal branding. That goes back to knowing who you are. Because once you know who you are, you could do what with it? What do you think? Once you know who you are, or know I'm a product and service, right? I'm a person. But if I know my own product and services, what can I now do? Raise a hand. Sell it. Bingo. What's your name, sir?
Jordan.
Jordan. Just do it. Jordan, you could sell it. From the resume to the first day on the job. You never stop selling. Now, I don't say oversell, and there's a bunch of bad salespeople running around the country. Tons. I know y'all already experienced some bad salespeople in your life for whatever decision purchases that you make. Guess what? Hiring managers are going to do the same thing. I hate to say that we're products or whatever, but when you're presenting yourself on a piece of paper, in person, over the phone, you're selling all the time. And at any point of that process, which we'll go through, that they don't buy, you don't get the job. Does that make sense? Selling's hard. There's multiple steps. Now, I've never sold cars, but I know how I've been sold by a car salesperson 15 times. They didn't just sell me on the car and say, you want to buy the car, here you go. Would you buy, who owns a car here? Oh, that's awesome. You guys are definitely in Seattle. Everybody's like Uber, bus, Lyft, reaching out, which I'm guilty of. But they sell you on the color of the car, 2-door, 4-door, many things in the steps. Now the minute, what's your name, man?
Teresa.
The minute, Teresa, you're looking for a 4-door and I say, here's a 2-door, what happens? Bingo. So the minute you don't hit on a point, or because I didn't ask the question if you wanted a 2-door or 4-door, I've already missed it. So that's, think about yourself as the salesperson of yourself. You are the CEO of Jordan, of Taylor, of Max, of Dave. Okay? What's your name one more time?
Teresa.
Teresa. Teresa, you're the CEO of Teresa. You know you. So you always got to keep selling, online, offline. And then there's an etiquette to selling. Cheryl, would you like to touch up on like etiquette?
Sure.
Because Cheryl teaches me a lot about etiquette. I'm telling you. I have horrible etiquette sometimes. But go ahead, Cheryl.
There is a certain etiquette when it comes to communication and selling people. For example, you can start with something as simple as an email, right? When you are emailing someone, how important is it that you don't misspell a word, that you are grammatically correct? And in a moment's notice, you could lose someone in an email if you misspell their name, right? Because immediately if someone misspells my name, which people do, I'm like, oh, to the next email. Like, this is no longer a priority. It's important to know a person. And sometimes before I respond to a person in an email, I'll go look them up online, on LinkedIn. Especially if I'm selling my business to someone, I want to know what it is that makes them tick, right? That they are passionate about. One of the things that I touch on when they talk about developing your personal brand and your resume, how many of you are familiar with covering? And the concept of covering who you are in order to fit in. So covering is like if you have an afro and you straighten your hair, or if you talk with an accent, and let me be clear that everybody talks with an accent to someone. But if you walk into a room and you have an accent, how often is it that people will listen to you, right? Or what are they listening for, or have they developed this bias against you? I remember when I was working at Europe, I was working with students, one of the things students would always say, especially students who come from historically stigmatized backgrounds, is I don't want to jeopardize who I am when I go into a company. I don't want to lose me, right? That's not me. I don't talk like that. I don't walk like that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I explain to students is that there are different levels to your authenticity. And what I mean by that is that you wouldn't treat your grandparents like you treat your best friend. It's a different form of communication that happens, a different level of respect when you engage with your relatives versus the people who may not be as close to you. Or maybe your friends are closer to you than your relatives. Either way it goes, you still talk a certain way, you act a certain way. It's the same process that you have to go through. That's a layer to your identity when you are developing a resume, when you go into a interview. That's why I say, what is your why? Know who you are, because you need to be able to represent those things authentically, but still be able to fit the mold of whatever it is that you want when you go into a job. So that's why I say it's important to have that etiquette, right? It's a certain way that you carry yourself. It's a certain way that you dress, especially if you work in a field like mine in diversity, where I talk to people about the deepest, darkest things that sometimes they don't want to have conversations about. It's a certain way that I have to frame a conversation, which is why it's important to do your research on who it is that you go into an office with. Remember, the email etiquette. And how many of you are English majors? Neither was I. And so it took a lot for me to understand what it meant, because I couldn't write to a potential customer and be like, hey girl, how you doing? Like, that's how I write to my best friend, right? But it was something about, and I also took some bumps and some bruises along the way. And I had to give some students some bumps and bruises about, when you write to me, you cannot talk to me like that. Because remember, it's also about catering to your audience. When you are a seller, you have to know your audience. When I go to a meeting, With Steve, I always tell Steve he has this gift about being able to really get interpersonal, and not to a point where it's uncomfortable, but to gauge people and have this gift about who they are and what they're passionate about, which is not always my strong point. And so I have to practice those things. I have to make sure that I build a framework for when I go into a meeting to sell it. And it's the way that you talk, it's the way that you walk, it's the way that you dress from the moment that you step into the building. Like me, I don't care to wear heels. Even though I love heels, I don't always care to wear heels. But I put them on before I go into a big meeting, right? Because as a woman and as a person who does not have certain privileges as other people in the room, there's a certain perception that I have to create in order to get people to respect my voice and my craft. And those things will be important for you when you go into a boardroom, when you go into an interview room. You have to pay attention to those things. And sometimes you may not have the resources to be able to get a suit or to get a dress or to dress a certain way. Start looking for programs here like Dress for Success, things that help you, because even when I first moved to Seattle with a PhD, I had to go to Dress for Success in order to get my wardrobe. So things like that, look for the resources for the things that can help you, and even for programs that help you practice those soft skills, because those are not always things that you learn in college, depending on what your major is.
Cheryl, what is the, and maybe you can give us a little bit of background on this, but it's about how humans were always scanning and judging and classifying. What is the terminology for that?
Bias,
Bias.
implicit and or explicit bias, unconscious bias.
Let me tell you why I say that. Because professional bias exists. Guess what? The minute you all here, seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, the minute you submit your application, guess what they label you as? It starts with an E. Next letter, N. Come on. T. Boom, who said that? What's your name now? Redmond? Resman. Resman, you're absolutely right. Entry level. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, but it's not always a positive thing either. So if they think you're entry level, that could be defined in two different ways depending on who you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd like for you to just give a quick bias overview, professional bias overview of, as you enter the field and you're considered entry level, what does that mean? What are you going to be faced with?
Right, so
this is life.
Entry level is usually the first level in a company, and then to be honest, sometimes the bottom level, besides the administrative staff, next is the entry level staff, right? And so when you are dealing with professional bias, it could be something as clear as your name on a resume, your zip code, where it is that you live.
These are facts.
Your high school, where you went to college. People look at these things and they will create stories of who you are before you even get in the door to decide whether or not you get the chance to get in the door. And I'll be very transparent and honest, some of you will have more biases than others. Some of you will encounter professional biases more so than others. Sometimes I tip my hat off to people who put that picture on the resume. So I say, ooh, that's a huge leap. Because it's unconscious, right? Some hiring managers, people don't know that they have those biases, which are the things my company goes in and tries to help people do, because we all have them. It's normal. They exist. The challenge is when you don't confront them, that you start to hinder the opportunity for other individuals.
Just like if you had a Seahawks jersey or shirt on, I have a bias where I favor you a little bit more.
I don't.
She's a Packers fan.
Let the collective eye roll begin. Don't anybody say anything about the game, or I'm not giving out any more tips.
So networking. Networking is, so after you've done your research, getting to know who you are, preparing yourself, going out to the marketplace, networking. Let's just say you all don't know each other. Taylor, Dave, Max, you all don't know each other. And you go out and you meet Teresa and you now are in a group. Just know that if Teresa is a hiring manager, you're always interviewing. You're always selling yourself, especially offline. You know, we talk about thinking outside of the box. Think outside of your computer box. Because if it took Cheryl 400 applications, and I know another gentleman named Dan Shaw who's a CTO of one of our clients called Silicon Mechanics in Bothell, and they do hire interns and veterans, and the CEO's a female executive for a tech company, which is amazing. But if he meets you, he's always going to be judging you, because he had to go through 1,000 1,000 applications before getting callbacks. One from BCU, one was from Disney. And he ended up going to BCU. Then he ended up going to Disney. Then he ended up being the CTO of his own, the Silicon Mechanics. But he even told me 1,000, because I asked him, I said, you're at a CTO level. Wow. You know, and I'm sending you candidates and stuff, and you know, you're reviewing the resume. Why are you so active as a CTO? He goes, well, Steve, because I remember when I was a candidate. I remember what it was like to fill out 1,000 applications just to get 2 callbacks. You remember? 400?
444. And I will say, from personal experience, believe that if you research a company and they are thinking about hiring you, they are also researching you. Be very mindful of your digital footprint and what it is that you put online. Because if I want to hire you and I Google you and I see that you're out wilding out and or partying and you got some things that may not fit into what my company's vision is, even though I don't agree with cultural fit, I'm not a fan of that, but I'm telling you how corporations think.
Correct.
You have to be mindful of what it is that you leave out in the internet. Don't just trust the cloud.
Yep.
It doesn't just go in the cloud and disappear, it is there.
It's forever.
Yes.
And one of our clients, 2 of our clients are cloud hosting companies, so it is forever. Online and offline, that's why we have that there. Your etiquette, your network, how you're always constantly being judged, where to go. And it's also a good thing because by networking, you're able to meet different people, right? You're able to step outside of your natural network. Because of networking is why I don't operate an illegal business. Told you guys, and gals, that I started by getting outside of my natural network. I researched and I stepped outside of my network. 2 of my investors for both companies were people that were probably my 4th, 5th connection. But because of networking, and I put here through shared values, activities, and purpose, you're able to meet all sorts of people, right? Your strangers could be some of your best advocates, right? So the reason why networking is so powerful is because you just never know who people know. You never know what they might be able to offer you throughout your journey. Life after college, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. You might have the help of your parents. You might have the help of family members and close friends. But if this group right here was all family and friends, and there was job opportunities, say 5, 10 over here, if you don't ever get outside of that closed group, you'll never have opportunities here. Does that make sense? The reason why diversity and inclusion is so important for companies, so important, and it's probably the #1 on a lot of executives and management teams' docket to improve on, is because this company knows, and look at all these empty seats, that if Google, Facebook, Hulu, Twitter, HBO, Taser, I'm just naming all kinds of companies that I've researched. If these companies do not know how to connect with you, guess what happens? Can anyone take a guess? Anyone? Guess what happens when you don't step outside of your natural network? Can I call on you, Teresa?
You get the job?
You don't get the job, but what did they not get? Your perspectives, your talent, what you've been studying here, right? They don't get that. There's empty seats. It needs to get filled. People are hiring right now. You know, if you were a computer scientist degree, you would be sought after like wildfire. So by you stepping outside of your natural network and meeting them in the middle, there's a bridge there. Because there's a recruiter here that wants to connect with you. But that connection doesn't happen if you don't step outside of yours and they don't step outside of theirs. So Cheryl and I, we help companies step outside of theirs. And then when you come into their company, you feel welcome. And there's some equity. It's equitable. You feel included. You feel engaged. You don't feel like a token. You're not the only woman working in tech. You're not the only Muslim that works in this company, right? You're not the only person that identifies as LGBTQ. You're not the only veteran. And not to mention your audience, the people that you sell to, if you come over to this company and you're selling your product and services, has to look like this, right? Because you just get more customers. Go ahead.
Just a quick, I noticed that Steven said guys and gals. Is there any non-gender conforming people in the room? Anyone that doesn't identify in those categories? I just want to make sure that our language is appropriate for the room.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank you. Execute. So execute. I put just do it. It's Nike. The reason why just do it is because a lot of people research and research and research and talk and talk. How many of you all know somebody with a great idea, but they never, ever go forth with it? Raise a hand. How many of you, or maybe even in yourself, you're like, you know what? I didn't do it, and I missed out. Like I thought of Uber before Uber did. Raise a hand. How many people have been told something, a goal or whatever, and know somebody that didn't hit their goal or didn't do it because they were scared, had doubt, fear, whatever that is? Yeah? Well, that's no different when you go outside of life and go look for a job. The difference that's going to separate most of you in this room are the people that can execute on their research, execute on their networking, execute on the homework that is required for you to do it, right? And actually going out there and stepping out. And outside of your comfort zone, because the example that I got here about the candidate market and the companies connecting, that takes both sides coming outside of their comfort zone. Otherwise, Max will just refer people, the same people, the same people, the same people, the same people that he knows in his group. And that's all you get. And that's not what we want. And that's not profitable for companies. And that's not innovative for companies. So that's why diversity and inclusion is very key to the workplace, but also to your success. So just do it. I do apologize. I was debating on whether or not I was going to put this. I said, what's the RI on your mother's? Gary Vaynerchuk. Anybody familiar with Gary Vee? Sweet. So you've heard how Gary Vee talks. And I'm not going to talk like Gary Vee here. But he did ask, somebody asked him, well, Gary, what's the ROI? What's the return on investment? If I pay for this, what do I get out of this? What's the end result? If 2 + 2, it should equal 4, right? And he got so frustrated at a client meeting one time, and he was comfortable enough to say this. Do not repeat this in your interview. Do not go to the hiring manager and ask them what the ROI is on their mother. You will be jobless. The reason why he said, what's the ROI on your mother is because we don't have an ROI on our mothers, or fathers, or parents, or somebody that raised us. These are valuable lessons that you just can't really put an ROI on it. There's an ROL, return on learning. There's an ROE, return on the experience. And so the reason why I say just do it, and the reason why I talked about people's mothers is because, guess what? You might do the networking, you might do the research, you might go out there and you might say, I'm at 300 applications, Cheryl. This stuff didn't work. It didn't work. Dan Chow could have said, you know what? I'm at 99 applications this week. I'm not going to get hired. I'm going to be a failure. I'm never going to be the CTO of a $70 million company. That's what he is today. Because what did he do? He just kept on doing it. Just kept on executing it. Wasn't looking for the return on investment. Like if I do 99, I got to get 2 callbacks. Sometimes that doesn't happen. It doesn't work out that way. And sometimes you might hit it out the park. And good for you. Your first job, your first boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, partner. You might hit it out the park. That's cool. But if you don't, it's okay. Just remember what Gary Vaynerchuk said. What's the ROI on your mother? Those are valuable experiences that just happen over time. You just got to keep going at it. You just got to keep doing it. And that's probably, and I know I put that last, but that's probably the most important thing. Is being able to confront your own comfort zone, your own fears, and just being able to do it. Let's start with this. 60 seconds. Cheryl, I know you're the one that told me to make sure I put that up. Why is 60 seconds so important?
I talk to students all the time about having an elevator pitch, right? Some 30 seconds, some 60 seconds, and having multiple elevator pitches depending on who your audience is. Because you never know who you're going to run into where that might ask you a question that leads to you getting a job. That is part of your professional brand. So the goal is research elevator pitches and what it is that they look like, and then develop multiple elevator pitches for yourself, because you never know. I'm not a fan of saying sell yourself. I say sell your skills, right? Because that is at the end of the day what it is that you are selling.
Sell your accomplishments too.
Right, and an elevator pitch is something that helps you to do that within those 30 to 60 seconds. I say have both and have at least four to six. So you have 2 of each or 3 of each, depending on who your audience is.
And it takes refinement. To this day, I still fail sometimes on my 60, 90-day seconds. You know, and I actually, the excuse that I use is, oh, this is not an elevator pitch, this is a hallway conversation, so let's just walk. Let me see if I can get this right. Right? I know Cheryl's spot on. I can say 60 seconds, she can go.
I've had a lot of practice. And I would say, I forgot what I was going to say that fast. What were we talking about?
60 seconds.
Oh, and this is going to sound cliche, and some of you have probably already heard it, but I'm going to repeat it again. The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. You're not going to get there if you don't work. Right? You miss, and some people, if you're a sports fan, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. The worst somebody could tell you is no. The best thing someone could tell you is yes. Take a risk. And depending on who you are and where you come from, and I'll definitely say this to the women in the room because I identify as one, we are less likely to fill out jobs where we don't fit all of the qualifications.
I want you to repeat that, so all the women in here.
You are less likely to fill out a job if you see that you don't fit all the qualifications.
These are facts.
Go for it anyways. Because I work with companies all the time to even redefine their job descriptions to say, no, only put the non-negotiables on there. What are the skills that a person needs to actually be able to do this job? What can they learn on the job? Lots of companies don't do that. Even if you say, oh, I only fit 3 or 4 out of 10 requirements, fill out the job application anyways.
I'll go through this really quickly because I know we're tight on time, but I love what you're talking about, like, you know, just doing it. You talked about authenticity and identity. I put be the first. Has anyone seen the movie Hidden Figures yet? Hidden Figures? Y'all haven't seen that? I should just come back here and buy tickets for everybody and just show it here. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. Especially if you're a woman, you gotta watch it. Hidden Figures. And just remember the part where she says, be the first. I'm gonna let you do your research practicing and apply it. If you can email me and tell me that you watched it, or Cheryl and I, and say, I get what you meant by be the first, this will all make sense to you, all the women in the room right now. Be the first. And I'll leave it at that once you can, and there's a YouTube clip for those of you that don't want to go to the movie tickets. I get it, college budget and all that. But and that's why I'm saying I should just come back here and we should do a movie screening for it.
Or you have alternative ways of viewing movies.
We all know that. No one can do it for you but you. Let me just reiterate that before we go to the last couple slides. Look, Cheryl and I love boxing. I'm a big boxing fan. Woo! Yes. No one can step in the ring. We can coach you. Nobody's going to be able to do this for you but you. Your family, your friends, even the connections of you getting into there can not guarantee you the job. It can just get you in. Gives you an advantage, but it doesn't guarantee the job. You have to do this for you. This research and this networking, this is all for you. Let me just tell you, we didn't get paid to be here. We volunteered because we know what it's like to be in that shoes. Okay? So this is for you. And you have to do it for you. So we're so glad that you're just sitting here still. Because you're doing this for you. Just know that you're investing in all this. Because what's the ROI on your mother? New levels, new devils. Before I go into this, and I want you to do the new levels, but follow up, listen, learn, and just do it. I wanted to put ×2, because the reason why I ended with this was follow up, listen and learn, and just do it again. Is because you're not going to get it the right time, the first time. You're going to go to your networking event, you're going to bump, you're going to pitch somebody, and you're going to talk about something, and you're going to mess up. You're like, oh my goodness, why did I shake her hand like that? And I had sweaty palms, and oh my goodness, and my lips were chapped, and I had a booger in my nose, whatever it is. There's all kinds of things that's going to happen in an interview, that's going to happen in your meetings, you're going to mess up on something. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's part of your success.
That's right.
It's not okay not to do anything about it. So follow up, follow up, follow up. Listen to what people are telling you. Because from this point on, if you're going to go get a job, along the way, somebody's going to tell you little different nuggets that you're going to be able to use. Just like when you were in class, you're going to be able to learn different things from people, from books, from your experience. And just learn and listen and follow up and just do it again. So, because the new levels, new devils, what can you do?
And I'll add that we talked about email etiquette. 24 hours you follow up with the hiring manager. I use 24 to 48 hours and send them a thank you note after an interview. Even if you didn't like that person, you thought they was a complete butthole. You still, thank you for your time. I wanted to, reach out. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Do the follow-up. It's important.
1 minute over this, I'll go over this. This is again just talking about the roadmap that we kind of talked about today. Your LinkedIn, your resume, networking. That's kind of the first couple steps you have to do. You have to think about the company, the industry, the job. You have to start thinking about the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Yourself, the company. Cheryl pointed out some good things. Are you marketing your skills? Are you making yourself available? Are you online? Do you have a portfolio set up? Because sometimes it's not the resume. If you're a design, creative space, I don't care what your resume says. Show me your work. Are you marketing your skills? Are you making yourself available? Okay. Your online and offline presentation and branding. That goes back to you, Teresa. You're the CEO of Teresa. You are the CEO of Dave and Max. Okay. And then basically the reason why I put this in the next one, preparing for 7 and 8, your phone interview and your in-person. So you've done all this. You submitted 444 applications or 1,000, and you happen to get a call back or a request to talk or to meet, depending on what their processes are. So what you have, congratulations, have survived is what we call the dark black hole. And it's called an application tracking system. You're going to learn that word really fast when you start applying for the big companies. You get thrown in a dark black hole. I know that sucks to hear that, and there's no other recruiters in here, so they can't really call me out, but let me give you a secret. When you submit your application to Amazon, the chances of you being thrown in a black hole with 1,000 other people is probably 99%. How do you stand out on paper? And if they were to research you, Cheryl talked about it, let's just say a recruiter goes, oh wow, Max has a couple good keywords here, or Jordan has a couple good, he has sales and marketing here. I noticed that he was at SPU and he studied that, so let's look him up real quick on his LinkedIn. Oh, he doesn't have a LinkedIn. Step one. Okay, or oh, he's posting some wild stuff on Twitter. Okay, so just remember, all this is preparing you for that callback. And so when they research you, you have to be prepared. But let's just say you're lucky to go to step 7, the phone interview. I can't go into detail right now about all the things about a phone interview. You research it. How to prepare for a phone interview. This is very important. Okay? Once you get to the phone interview. Now, if you don't get past the phone interview, go to 1. The reason why I say go to 1 is you just got to do it again. Right? Cheryl did it 444 times around the track. Dan Chow did it 1,000 times. But what if I told you at the end of that, it paid you 6 figures? All y'all said that you wanted a 6-figure job after college, right? How many steps do you want to take? So, phone interview. Then after the phone interview comes the in-person, right? When you're there, are you telling them your thoughts if they told you to whiteboard? If they asked you about your accomplishments and your skills, are you prepared, right? And I'm going to give you 3 tips real quick, and I want y'all to write this down if you can. These 3 questions will get you hired most of the time. If all things pass and you want to just put the icing on the cake, this is very helpful tips. I've seen people do it multiple times. It's been, I think I'm 100 for 100 on this so far, but I could be lying. So first off, what you want to do is you want to ask them, I think you actually already gave this answer. Why are you hiring for this role? Or are you replacing it with somebody? The reason why this is important is because if they're replacing somebody, what do you think that they're doing? They don't want that same problem. They're replacing somebody. They fired somebody for a good reason. Well, Joe just couldn't show up to work every day. Now, if you have 100% attendance in your last employer, do you think that's relevant? That's pretty relevant. Because if I'm interviewing you, and I just told you that I fired Jordan or Teresa for attendance, but Max or Dave, you have perfect attendance, I want to know that. Whether it's the beginning of the interview or at the end of the interview. Ask me, what's the reason why you're hiring for this role? If it's a new role, it's a new position, what's my why? Find out my why. Why are you doing that? Why is this new position being created? Why are you opening up a marketing communications person? Because by finding out that why, it's going to show you and give you the answers on how to align your skills and your accomplishments to that job. Because what does that tell me? Oh, I'm looking for a car because I want a 4-door because currently I have a 2-door. Are you going to sell me a 2-door or are you going to sell me a 4-door? You're going to talk to me about the 4 doors that you have, the accomplishments that you've done that align to my why as an employer. Now, the other question that you want to ask is, what does it look like for the person that you're going to hire? Now, don't oversell, because I've seen people do this. Once I get the job, because I can sell ice to Eskimos and air to anybody. Don't do that. Don't be that salesperson. Don't be cocky. Be confident, but don't be cocky. Because that's when you oversell yourself. And when you oversell yourself, you shot yourself in the foot, you already lost the job. But ask them, what does the first 90 days look like? The reason why I say this is because you're already selling yourself by telling them that you can follow the blueprint or the map that they have for you. So if you, what's your name, man? Sienna. You, Sienna, sat across from me in an interview, and you asked me, well, Steve, what's the first 90 days look like? Immediately, I'm like, wow, she wants to know the roadmap. She's invested into, so all these things and thoughts are going through my head about, oh, okay, here's the 90 days. It's visualizing it, right? You want them to visualize it, okay? So, Sienna, the first day, and you don't have to say, you can say the first 90 days, and if you have time, break it down even more. What's the first day expectation? Now, I want you to use that word expectation, because they're all expecting something from you when they hire you. I'm not just going to hire you to hire you, because you graduated from SPU, which is an advantage. It's an advantage. It's an advantage. But I'm hiring you for a reason. Because on my first day when you get here, well, there could be 2 different types of companies. I could be Bank of America, structured. Well, your first day you're going to sit next to Joe, and then you're going to go to training, and we're going to get your login. Or I could be a startup. Well, your first day, I'm going to be in Rome, and then I'm going to travel back and go to Vegas, and I'm going to video you. And if you give me the slightest hesitation, fear, or like, you can't do it, that's a red flag for me. Oh yeah, you're going to be a problem. You're going to be more work. I'm going to buy a car that's broke down and I need repairs. Okay? So it's very important that you give your employer, whoever you're interviewing, the confidence in you, in your skills, in your accomplishments, and how it aligns to their first 90 days, and why they're hiring for that role, and what's your first day look like. Oh, okay, no worries on that. One time when I was working at this telemarketing for a mortgage company, the manager was working remote from Minneapolis, and what we were able to do, blah. Wow, okay, cool. What's the first 30, 60, 90 days look like? What are you expecting from the person that you're going to hire? Because if you know that answer, and you fit that answer, you've done everything that you can in your control. Really, it's up to them after that. But you've done your research, you've done the research on the company. Hopefully it's a passion of yours, and even if it's not, it's okay. Trust me, I've had to do jobs just to pay rent, okay? Sometimes you have to do what you need to do in order for you to do whatever the hell you want to do after that, okay? That's the only reason why I'm in the role that I'm in, and the reason why I love entrepreneurship is because I'm able to do what the heck I want to do. But I had to do what I need to do. Washing dishes, working at Wendy's. Sorry if you ever came to Wendy's in Broadway, oh my goodness. But that might be way before a lot of time. But do you have anything to add to that? Yeah, and I'm going to wrap up here.
And do we need to be out of the room, or do we have a little bit more extra time? I know that we were supposed to end at 5:30. I just want to be.
I think we have some extra time, so I would just say if students need to leave,
Yeah,
they
I wanna-
can, but you're welcome to stay and listen and chat with
We got
each
2
other.
more minutes.
Great, that's fine. No
Please.
problem.
Oh, thank you.
I'm good. I think.
Background checks, offers, and negotiation. You gave great tips on how to make sure that you know the salary range going in, and then when you're offering, when you're doing the negotiations. Because back to CEO of Teresa Inc., you have to negotiate that, right? This is part. You have to get comfortable with the offer stage and the negotiation and asking questions. And remember, not every offer is a good offer.
That's right.
And if you take a $40,000 a year salary, how did you not know that you weren't in the market for a $70,000 a year job? Or a 6-figure at Amazon, or Microsoft, wherever that was, right? So remember, offers and negotiations. Job offer, if no, which this, let me just tell you something real quick before I move on. This part rocks a lot of people. I've seen a lot, I hate to use Ronda Rousey as an example, but Ronda Rousey with the UFC, ever since she got knocked out, it was done. Or just football recently, Aaron Rodgers.
At least we made it.
Ah! Okay, no, you're good. We're good. Russell Wilson. The reason why this is so important, I just want to tell y'all, you will all get so excited. You did everything. You're like, oh, I'm here. I'm about to catch a plane to go to Hawaii. And you miss your flight. Or it gets canceled. You're rocked. You thought about Hawaii. You did all this research. You're like, oh my goodness, it's over for me. That's it. I'm just going to go stay at home with mom, watch Netflix, and play video games all day. No, it's not over for you. But I've seen thousands of people, the minute they lose on a job offer, it's over. They give up.
And usually those are the people that put all this analogy, all their eggs into that one basket. This is the job for me, this is what I want, and no plan B. I'm a firm believer in use plan B to support plan A, right? Because you always want plan A. That's why I say apply for multiple roles. Don't just say, oh, this is the perfect job for me, and apply for that job and don't apply for anything else and then wait. Because if you get disappointed, it's devastating. It can be devastating, right? It can hurt your confidence. So make sure that you don't just limit yourself to one role, to one trajectory.
And then quick story, and then I'll go right to the last slide and we're done. Tariq Youssef, security systems engineer at Google, grew up in Holly Park Projects. Parents told him, we can't pay for your college. He went to community college, put his application to Google, denied. Then he got lucky. He tells me, he's like, I got lucky, I just kept on applying. I finally got into UW, got into the computer science program, got to intern, then got hired at Google. Can you imagine how he felt if the first time he's like, this is it, screw you Google, hate you. Right? Because he kept on going and doing the steps and going and doing the steps. It just increases his chances.
And this is preparation, remember. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Bingo.
So prepare yourself, constantly practice, do the research, network. That's preparation for when the opportunity comes, you are ready. I believe in luck, but only if you are preparing for the opportunity and it just so happens to come your way. Not that somebody drops it in your lap because they feel like being nice.
And then last but not least, this is just more of a contemporary, modern type of resume. Not a lot of resumes look like this today. Again, probably like 1 or 2%. The reason why I like this resume, I couldn't get it. I wish I had Marissa Mayer's, CEO of Yahoo's resume, but it looks something similar to this, where she kind of simplifies it and uses infographics. The reason why I put this on here is because I see the mistake that a lot of people use is they put a lot of buzzwords and stuff and things that aren't relevant to the job. First off, the one thing that I want to know is what did you accomplish, how did you do it, and how does it relate to the job that you're applying for? Tailor it. If you only have one copy of your resume, you already failed.
That's right.
You need to have multiple copies of your resume. Guess what? There's some companies that are professionally biased on the fact that, oh, this is not, you're just a project manager. I needed a product manager. What? But in my job as a project manager, I was managing a product and I had to push the product, but it didn't say that though, right? So it didn't say that. What do you mean, Teresa? This is a 4-door car. You know, but it looked like a 2-door. Far away, I don't know. Right? So it's how you present yourself. So the reason why I'm going back to this is because this is your company. This is your one-pager. This is your one-pager. You are a company of one today. And so what did you accomplish? How did you do it? And how does it relate to the job? If you can't communicate that on your resume and you're sending it out to 444 people, you're going to send it out to another 444 more.
And
Keep refining it. Keep tweaking it. Go ahead.
And I would add, if you're not the best speller, punctuation, English is not your strong point when it comes to grammar, it's not mine. Don't be afraid to use the writing centers and the resources that you have on campus. Because you'd be surprised how inconsistently it is if you put a period in one place and not in another. I look at things like that on a resume, even though it's superficial, and I still may let somebody in the door, but it depending on what the job is, that could be important, details. So make sure that if you're not good at paying attention to the small details, which I'm not, I usually hire somebody to do that. Make sure that you use the resources that are allocated to you to get there.
What is name sample resume? What is he selling? Somebody read this? Come on, SPU. What does it say?
Digital marketing and advertising specialist.
Thank you. Digital marketing. So if I'm a digital marketing firm and I see this resume, okay, cool. Let's keep scrolling. Did you know that recruiters take 7 seconds to look at your resume and they do it in a Z?
That's right.
If they don't work for a staffing or recruiting agency, they don't work for you. They work for the company. A staffing recruiting agency, we kind of work both angles. But if they don't work for you. They work for Amazon. They work for these companies. They work for the digital marketing agency. And so what they're trying to do is out of 1,000 resumes, shrink it down. They're looking for all reasons to shrink it down. And they're going to keep scanning. And if you don't have, if it's a digital marketing advertising specialist that they're looking for, and you put, painter, writer, pianist, guitarist, that's cool. Not cool here. That's not what we're buying. Okay? So, again, these are things you all have a printout. If you need the PDF version, please email us. I think both our contacts are on, our contacts are on there. You have any final thoughts?
No final thoughts, so maybe open it up for questions.
Yeah, open up for questions for those who want to stay. Thank you again. Please give yourself a round of applause. Thank you for